Well, hello and welcome to my worst nightmare. I have to apologize for anybody who wanted to watch this live. I have done webinars in the past. I have not done automations for webinars in the past. So this is very, very, very new to me. And I really apologize. I'm going to work with my tech team on the back side of this in order to be able to make sure that all the proper updates are involved. And I will close out my own personal Zoom accounts to make sure that there is no issue on that. So time is the most important thing that we have. And I really don't want to end up wasting yours more so than I already did. I am now looking at 15 minutes in delays here before I even get started. So, with that said, um, let me jump in. Normally this would be interactive, and that's obviously not going to happen today. Oh, we have one participant. Maybe I can send out, I'm going to pause this. Hi there. I was just saying how apologetic I was. Nobody is going to get this link except for perhaps you because of the direct message that we had. So, with that said, it's very, very nice to meet you, and you can have one-on-one time with me today. I don't know how to pronounce your name. If it's Lucia, that's my guess. You can feel free to pop off of mute at any time, and I will I will get started now. So before you popped on, I was just starting my recording, and it is really to say how sorry I am for, there we go, um, for not being up to date with this tech stuff. And I apologize for the back and forth thing and the emails that people are going to get. So let me just see if I do have the option for you to, that's the share, to unmute yourself. I believe you should be able to. I set up my controls before though. So feel free to write in the chat if you do have a problem or if you have a question that you want to ask. Okay, so I will officially get started now. I will have to look back in the time so anybody that's joining in doesn't have to hear my apologies for like 10 minutes. So, now I've gotten myself all flustered. Here we go. All right. So you're here because you want to know more about snoring and if there is anything that you can do to stop your snoring, or perhaps it's one of a loved one and you really want to be able to share some information with them. Regardless, I will try to provide you the best solutions that could be out there for you. So I do like people to stay uninterrupted. Generally, that's when it's alive. If you're now obviously watching this as a recording, other than my one participant, then the distraction methods can really, it can interrupt us. And if we already have a hard time focusing, staying focused, then obviously we may miss some really valuable information and we don't give ourselves the time, that self-care, to actually make a change. Okay, so um, and so this was my screen for that. Okay, so my promise for you today is that by the end of this training, I'm going to show you how to stop relying on gadgets, on products, on machines, and to be able to really wake up feeling rested. Okay, stop snoring is one aspect of it, but what I like to do is help people actually feel better and live a better life, as well as having restful sleep. Okay, so hopefully that sounds good. Um, let's see. Oh, I keep hitting that wrong button. Oh my, I am so sorry. So I'm curious, can you relate to any of these? Are you tired of waking up being tired despite having sleeping meds or using supplements? Are you fed up with sticking things up your nose or over your mouth? Do you wear a night guard? Maybe that's going to help you stop grinding, but you're still feeling like you're waking up, like unrested, sore jaws. It's really maybe not preventing the snoring, it's just protecting your teeth. Are you unsure how to have a peaceful night's sleep without disrupting your partner or without being jolted awake either by them or by your own gasps for air or that loud noise that kind of wakes you up? I know in the past I woke myself up from a giant snore. And do you feel embarrassed, guilty? Do you feel lonely perhaps because you're sharing a different bedroom? Do you feel shame? A lot of people end up having those feelings. So if you can relate to any of those, let me know. Would love to hear in the chat if any of those things resonate with you. Okay. So if they do, I just want you to know that it's not your fault. Okay. Um, there is, oh, oh, never mind. I thought there was something in the chat there. Oh, is there something in the chat here? Yes. Here we go. Let me bring that up there. Oh, yes. I know that wasn't your fault. That was my fault. And here I'm saying this is not your fault either. Waking up feeling really tired. Yes, that is what many people are suffering from. It's interesting though, a lot of people end up feeling like they have amazing sleep. That was me. I could sleep anywhere, anytime. I'm going to even get to that. But I was actually really, really sleep deprived, where people that are feeling the effects and they're waking up really, really tired, then they they have the most in a way to gain from this because they're going to actually feel much, much better if they do address their snoring. So hopefully some information here will be very helpful for you, or we can jump on a call. I will put it out there. This is an information session. At the end, obviously, I'm going to go over what I have found and what I found with my clients, and there will be, you know, a recommendation for you to reach out to me so I can dive in a little bit more into your situation and your needs and see if I would be the one to help you. And if I'm not, then hopefully where I could guide you to. So that way you can at least maybe stop doing some of the scrolling on your own and find something based on my information that I'm aware of and where I can direct you a lot easier than trying to find it on your own. So I'm definitely here to help you with that because it is hard to know who to trust, where to look, what to believe. And, I just want to be able to maybe provide some support. There we go. So here's the whole thing. What do you want to actually feel? Like, do you want to wake up every day feeling energized? Do you want to stop relying on sleep aids or the other products I mentioned? Do you want to stop feeling guilty for keeping somebody else up? And do you, here we go, Lucia, finally feel rested? Right? These things, they are possible. It's challenging. We're multifactorial. There's a lot going on. However, my approach incorporates many aspects of life so that way we can really dial down into the parts that are affecting you. So what I'm going to share with you really is the simplest and the fastest way to be able to reach your final destination. I don't like to say final destination. I shouldn't have said that because there's always more that we're going to want after this. It's just when we're feeling better, what more can we have, which is the interesting aspect. So before I go any further, I can formally address myself for anybody who doesn't know me. I'm Tiffany Lidwicki. I am a health coach. I have a background in dental hygiene, and I have a certification in myofunctional therapy. Okay, that's the little spoiler alert, myofunctional therapy. People don't know about this. Practitioners don't know about this. And this is really the foundation of what I'm going to share today. Okay. Um, I created Mind, Body, Mouth, which is a link between the mind and the mouth. And I created the Stop Snoring solution. And so this is what I'm going to share today. Okay. I am a mom. I'm a friend. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a lifelong learner. And I'm just a silly person who really likes to make people feel better. So that was me 5 years ago. I would mask my insecurity surrounding myself with bad habits, a lot of acquaintances. I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I had a horrible memory. I had low self-confidence. And that was the time where I would sleep anywhere, anytime, and I would think that was a superpower. But I didn't actually realize it was as bad as it was, despite falling asleep on the back of my husband's motorcycle multiple times, that the nods hitting my helmet, hitting his helmet, trying to strap myself in because we have to get back home after wherever we were going. I also know a time in my teenage years when I fell asleep during Saving Private Ryan. Super loud war movie. One of my friends was covering their eyes because the gore. The other one was just like mouth open, like, I can't believe this is happening. And I was snoring away. Um, so it's a memory I remember. I don't know how sometimes because the memory loss was probably one of my biggest insecurities that I had that I can directly relate back to my poor sleep quality, right? I wasn't getting the oxygen to the brain that I needed. I wasn't dropping into deep sleep stages of sleep in order to take my experiences throughout the day and put them into my memory bank. So I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but for me, it really was the self-confidence and the memory issues that bothered me, even though I was still keeping my husband awake because we have been together for over 20 years now. So he has seen all this transition. He is very happy for what it is now. So um, back then, I wasn't necessarily feeling tired, but I was confused and I was defeated. And that was because all this came to realization after my first child. So she wasn't sleeping well and she was mouth breathing and snoring. And so when a baby does that, they should be obligate nasal breathers. It's not like my baby was overweight. She wasn't intoxicated. There was a reason for her snoring that went beyond what our current assumptions are on why somebody snores, right? So I realized that, she has this diagnosis. She was actually diagnosed from an ENT to have sleep apnea. I can't mouth tape her. I can't give her a CPAP machine. There's no oral appliances. So I was stuck wondering, like, what is it that I can do for her? And it was my background in dental hygiene, which opened me up to the modality of myofunctional therapy, which made me realize I needed to make a change for my baby. And I need to find out how and what would work with this myofunctional therapy knowledge that I had recently gained to help some of my other clients. I was just referring them for sleep studies. I wasn't doing any treatment with them. But then when there was no myofunctional therapist in my province, like, how is my baby going to get the help? And I realized I had to be that person. And so that is really what led me to this. And I'm so grateful that I invested in my education because it has improved my relationship with my husband. It has given my child hope for proper growth and development of her facial structure and definitely of her brain, her attention span, um, and her behavioral self regulation or emotional regulation. And then once you know better, you can do better. So even though right now, um, I am able to sleep without mouth breathing, without snoring all night long, it did take a long time for me to realize that. Like, I could have spent years if I really cared about the snoring, I could have spent years trying all the gadgets, and I just would have had to be trapped or tied into something. The continuous purchasing of products, the attached to the wall, having a machine, the time that it would need to, like, clean out the machine so that way I don't end up with any infections or any issues because of bacteria growing in the machine. I would have tried these things over and over again maybe never really finding the resolve that I was looking for. And so when I did this practice and this training in order to help my daughter, by the end of all of my training, I had stopped snoring. So I had resolved an issue that I didn't even know was a problem for me. I was just doing it for her. And that was an aha moment for me and why I've actually made it to where I am now, where I've been helping people one on one and realizing I don't have the time to do that anymore. And I really need to be able to help more people. And so, what I discovered through all of, oh, well, there's my, there's a slide for what I was going to share for this. So, just the importance of being there for family. And I figured out that, yes, there's anatomical aspects to the why we snore. There's habitual aspects to why we snore. And there are ways to mitigate it naturally. So we won't have to be tied up to what we currently believe is inevitable. So I'm going to dive into some core concepts that I'm going to share today, but I really just wanted to share this with you because snoring is one aspect, but there's so many parts in our life that are all connected to snoring, whether that's teeth clenching, headaches, jaw pain, ringing in your ears. These can all be related to the structures that are attached to our tongue. And our tongue and our airway are so closely related. And so we might think that we're snoring because we have excess fat, but what if it's just the tongue blocking that airway? A lot of my clients are actually healthy individuals that are not carrying extra weight. Okay. When it comes to snoring, that's usually what we see. Sleep apnea events, we usually see that maybe more frequently in overweight, but general snoring can affect anybody. And when it's happening in children, that's when it's the worst. But regardless on when, the sooner we resolve it, the longer lifespan we're more likely to have, right? This was just a case study where he showed up to me. He had some of these, and we met in a podcast, or he heard about me in a podcast, and I made a connection with him. And we ended up working together for a little while. And now he's no longer snoring and he's able to travel without pain anymore because the other things that he was suffering from ended up being improved by the time we were done working together. So I have notes here just to follow along with, but I definitely go off script. I don't like the reading from something, even though it's easier for me to stay focused. It just doesn't connect with people as much. So I apologize if I'm kind of all over the place. But the three concepts that I want to cover are the real reason why whatever that you're trying hasn't worked yet. Okay, we're going to get into the actions, your thoughts, and what the root cause probably is. Concept two is how to stop the sleep roller coaster. And then three, the discovery that I made that changed everything for me. Okay. Um, so on here, I have the real reason why whatever you're using isn't working. And I like to talk about sleeping pills, nasal strips, oral appliances, a CPAP machine, surgery, and then we'll get into the other aspects there. So, do you think, or have you tried any of these? First of all, that would be really interesting to find out. What have you tried? And as I wait and see if there's any comments in the chat, um, I'll talk a little bit about them. Okay. Sleeping pills, they help you fall asleep faster. So it gives you a perceived beneficial effect, but it actually prevents you from getting into deep stages of sleep. Okay, so nasal strips and mouth tape. And sometimes I incorporate mouth tape, and I do recommend mouth tape sometimes. It's a tool to help you get from one step to the next, but it's a band-aid solution still. Um, and I will jump to that one next. So the sleeping pills, they actually should only be recommended for temporary use. Maybe if you're traveling, you're dealing with a big stressful situation. However, some people get diagnosed and prescribed, I should say, not diagnosed, prescribed them forever. And it's the doctor's last resort. Back in 2016, it was actually informed that that should be the very last thing a doctor would consider. And yet people end up on them for life. Okay. So it really does interrupt the deep stage of sleep. And that's what's so important for detoxifying the brain. So that's why we won't wake up rested. Even if we're taking sleeping pills, we sometimes just don't wake up rested because we never detoxified the brain. It's like really bad debt. It's in there. You're never paying it off, but it's building up and building up and building up over time. Okay. And they can also, yeah, they end up being addictive as well because of that perceived benefit. Now, nasal strips and dilators. So if you have a structural issue in your nose and your nose has airway restrictions, those nasal strips can help pull on the tissue and it can open up the cartilage area. Okay. So, however, if you have allergies and some inflammation, it's going to be really hard because all of that inflammation is really on the inside. The inflammation itself is blocking the space. So you might not be, just by pulling on the skin, you might not be opening up the airflow. Okay. Um, if they do work for you, like I said, it's likely a structural issue. And so that you might want to like look into an ENT because they might be able to help you out. Because the number one goal of what I want people to achieve is to be able to nasal breathe on their own. Okay. If they can't do it and those nose strips help a little bit, then perhaps there is something structural that can be addressed. Okay. But the main thing is you're still really going to want to seek out like a sleep study. If you're not waking up feeling rested, you're using those and you're like, okay, I can breathe better, but you might still be snoring. You might be waking up unrested. There could be an underlying sleep issue. Okay. The next thing is oral appliances. So some people get the appliances that pull your jaw forward, right? And, or there's even some like that can help your tongue go in certain positions. So they can improve the airway space, which is really, really what we want. But they can also adjust your bite because for 8 hours a night, your jaw is being held in a certain position, right? And so whenever we have forces, like think braces, think Invisalign, we have forces against our teeth or our jaw, and it can change the natural positioning of the teeth. So we want to be careful because we really don't want to change oral structures. And it also depends too on the type of appliance that you get. A lot of dentists out there will just prescribe a bite plane, which protects the teeth, but it really doesn't do anything for snoring. And if you're someone who ends up throwing it out in the middle of the night, then likely you have an airway issue. Otherwise, if it works for you and it feels good and you're not clenching your teeth as much, great. Again, all of these things work for some people, not for everybody. And this is just why I want to share information because something may not work for you, but it doesn't mean nothing else will. Then there's surgery. So there are surgeries that can actually take your jaw and pull it forward to open up your airway. There's surgeries that can cut your whole airway, like the uvula and the parts of the soft palate, and that's called UPPP. Okay, it's uvulopalato-pharyngoplasty. I might not have actually said that right, but there's really invasive approaches to care to help people stop snoring. I would rather teach you how to strengthen and open up that airway, tone that airway, than just cut it all out because we have these structures for a reason. Removing them, we really don't know what that can cause, like what kind of risk factors are involved when we take out parts of our body. And then, of course, there's the CPAP. A lot of times people, they snore and they get mild sleep apnea, then it's moderate and severe. Now they finally have a diagnosis. Yay, there's something that you could do for them. You can wear a CPAP, right? Um, the thing is, not everybody likes to wear it. And people that really need it sometimes cannot tolerate it well. Luckily, there's been advances in them, but again, it's a Band-Aid solution. right? And if you're not cleaning it properly, then you do have other risk, for respiratory issues. And I obviously don't want anybody to have that because that's going to impact your breathing. And again, you can go like breathing's the most important. You can go minutes without breathing before you're a goner. You can go days without sleep. Not even like past 11 days, no one has reached that point to be able to like have a study that could prove you can last longer. And you can go weeks, you can go months without food and water, right? Breathing is the most important. Sleep is the second most important thing in life. So having a CPAP, yes, it's going to prolong your life, but for how long, right? Um, Generally, if people do use it, you get to a point where it reaches full pressure, and then what, right? So so these things, all these options that I mentioned, they have a time, they have a place, and really what people use depends on their circumstances, their knowledge of what's available, their finances, the practitioners around them, the time they can commit, and what their own personal values are. So none of these are wrong, none are necessarily right, but all I know is that I have worked with people over the you that have tried everything and they're still looking for me. So, um, based on what I shared there, was there any aha moments about any of these things? Like, do you feel any of this was new information to you and provided value on making decisions for moving forward? All right. We'll wait and see if you wanted to comment on that. And while you are in comment mode, why do you think you might snore? This is a great thing that I like to ask people. So I'll let you put in the comments on what you think the reason for snoring is. Maybe not just you, but the people around you, what you assume is the root cause of snoring. And I'll dive into the three top categories, which most people always say that it is their reason or why they think they snore. So weight, yes, it can contribute. Okay, I'll put it out there. All three of these can contribute to you snoring. It might not be the root cause, but it can contribute to. The reason for weight is because the excess weight that we have when we put on fat, our tongue can carry extra fat pads. Okay, our throat can carry excess fat pads. So what does that do? If we have an airway, an airway that's open like this, and as we get more fat, if it blocks it in there, we're going to slowly shrink our airway space, right? And so we're going to have more opportunity for vibrations to happen as we breathe in. So weight can do it. Not to mention when we're laying down, the weight on our chest or on our back, or depending on how we're sleeping, the weight that we're carrying on our stomach, it puts it on our diaphragm, it puts it on our lungs. So we may not get enough flow, the ability to take in so much oxygen when we're carrying weight. So that can cause snoring or sleep disturbances. Next is stress. Um, so stress can be anything. It can be emotional stress, physiological stress, physical stress, or psychological stress. We automatically go right to the brain that it's like, oh, I'm just so stressed out. But the act of eating is stress because it is your organs and your digestive system all working together, creating waste products. So that is stress. And when we are stressed, we are not allowing our body to fully get into rest and digest, which is a state that we need to be in while we're sleeping. And while a state that allows our hormones to balance themselves. So when we are stressed out, we're just shooting more stress hormones as well, which interrupts our ability to sleep. We're not producing the hormones that put us into a state of mind to get good quality sleep. And so that can end up with snoring because the whole body, when it relaxes, there's just, it's not that there's no tone left, but there's no ability for even when you're laying down, for your brain to detoxify itself, to turn off the stress, like the hormones that are creating your mind to keep running, that you're creating all this waste product that can never detoxify itself. So stress has more to do, maybe not so with snoring, um, but the waking up rested aspect of it. Okay. Um, and next, alcohol. People often snore after a crazy night out. We've probably all experienced it. That's our body trying to balance the oxygen and improve our blood sugar and our cell function. And so what we do is we tend to switch to mouth breathing. And then the mouth breathing creates irritations in our airway, causing a bit of swelling. We tend to get more relaxed. So our tongue muscles, our muscles in the back of our throat, they can just flatten out a little bit more, blocking the airway. So we're now breathing through our mouth, and we're now doing it through a lot of relaxed tissue. And so that will end up creating more flappy skin to create um, more vibrations, so more snoring sounds. Okay. Um, and alcohol actually ends up working a little bit like sleeping pills. Sometimes you might think, oh, I'll have a little bit of drink before I go to bed. It's going to make me fall asleep faster. But like sleeping pills don't let you go into deep stages of sleep. Alcohol is similar to that. When the sugar and the alcohol start to wear off, it kind of wakes up your body and you don't get those restful deep sleeps that you actually think. So it's a hindrance. And this is just some structural pictures of the airway of the tongue. The tongue ideally should be up on the roof of the mouth, up here, not kind of falling down. So this picture will show you the root cause of snoring. And it is the strength of that tongue and the function of the attaching muscles that will create the ability to maintain tone during those stages of sleep when the body relaxes, right? Even if we end up drinking alcohol and normally you would snore, if your tongue and your airway muscles have enough tone in them to maintain suction, negative pressure, and all the scientific kind of things, then you end up having the ability to not snore, yet still, sorry, I'm getting checking the notes here, yet still get the benefits of enjoying whatever vice that you might have done. You know, I don't think you enjoy stress so much. We don't really like stress, but if you want to have a night with friends, then yes, you can enjoy that alcohol. And maybe in the past you would have snored, but now you wouldn't because you're going to address the root cause, which I'm going to get into now. There are some sleeping positions where I snore more. Sometimes that could be related to a tongue tie, okay, because of the way that the tongue will block the airway. And I've noticed some snoring in my toddlers, 4-year-old twins. What could be the root cause for them? Again, tongue tie. Tongue ties could be the root cause because the tongue blocks the airway. Habit. So whether or not they see other people around them mouth breathing a lot, they can mouth breathe. And so that can lead to snoring. And if there's lots of allergies and sicknesses where they have a lot of congestion in their nose, so they can't breathe through their nose. And then they breathe through their mouth and they cause irritations down in the throat, causing snoring. So we got to determine, does the snoring come from the nose or does the snoring come from beyond the nose into the throat, right? Because you can address one and not solve your problem, like I mentioned with the nose strips, because it has something else to do, maybe with the tongue blocking the airway. And then just the position of the tongue. So I've seen lots of people with tongue ties, and I was one of them. I resolved my snoring before I even addressed my tongue tie because my body compensated fine. I just needed to change how I was using my tongue and how I was breathing. So that's the thing. So it could be habit and it could be an anatomical thing. It could be, yeah, anatomical would be the tongue tie or anything deviated septum. Fact is, you know this right now when they're 4 years old, you are in the right time and place to make a change. right? So we can talk about that, and I can explain the growth and development that happens if our tongue is down and we're snoring. Okay. Um, and if they're mouth breathing, here's a funny quote here that I was going to mention right now, anyways, is you should eat through your nose as much as, you should breathe through your mouth as much as you eat through your nose, right? We shouldn't be breathing through our mouth. We definitely don't eat through our nose. So if you're mouth breathing and snoring all night, then your body is actually in survival mode. Okay. You're not in rest and digest, which you need in order to give you the energy to function properly during the daytime hours. And I kind of explained why mouth breathing leads to snoring, right? It's because you're creating that irritation in the airway. And it will and can, if you're young, affect your sinus growth and your upper jaw development. Okay. Making it harder and harder and harder as time goes on to do the proper techniques, the proper tongue position, the proper movement, the proper swallow. Okay. So, you can do all you want with nasal strips and a CPAP machine, but if the air doesn't actually go into the lungs, because let's say your mouth breathing kind of goes in, but it comes back out, you're not going to get the resolution that you're looking for. You're never going to feel rested. So, making sure that you're able to breathe properly through the nose with the mouth closed, with the tongue up, that's what you're going to need to do in order to prevent yourself from needing appliances, machines, products, and be able to treat the root cause. Okay. The root cause issue is poor or weak or dysfunctional tongue and facial muscles. Okay. So the sleep roller coaster, I like to call it a roller coaster because of how someone who snores deals with going to sleep, how they're sleeping, and waking up the next day. So most people that I've encountered, they have tried everything to stop snoring. I had mentioned that earlier today, but they actually come out feeling more defeated, more fatigued, and more anxious because they always had hope for all these things to work. And they find that the best thing to do is, in the end, sleep in separate rooms, right? It's the only way to save their marriage. But what does that do for you as the sleeping partner? You sleep alone, feeling more lonely and depressed. And then you embark on that roller coaster over, okay, I'm going to try things again. I'm going to do this, to feeling like a complete failure when they don't work for you, right? Your mental health becomes affected. You begin to feel like something is wrong with you. And I'm here to tell you that there is nothing wrong with you. It doesn't have to be this way. You have done everything right leading up to this. And I know that because you're here now. You're still trying to find an answer. Okay. Um, there's a lot of marketing info out there, some of it misleading. And as I mentioned, some of those things that I mentioned in the beginning, they can work for some people. Okay. I'm so proud of you for not giving up and for being here to get this information. Um, Even medical, dental, and naturopathic practitioners at this point don't even fully understand this. Okay. Um, at least not yet. I'm going to hope that there will be a change. Um, but the one thing that I do want to mention when it comes to naturopath and doctors, and even like, not science, but yes, science, but studies out there, research, is that you can prove or disprove anything, right? And all of the things that are proven to help, they do help, but for how long and at what cost, right? Um, Let me try to find my note on that. Nah, I'm not really going to get into my note too much on there, but it is just my whole point is that the CPAP machine works, but again, for how long and how compliant do you have to be? Supplements work, right? For some people, they could work. There's science to prove that they can. But if you're not dealing with a deficiency, then it's probably not going to be your solution. And if you have tried, what's another thing? A surgery, right? Again, what are the long-term effects of cutting out your tissue? There's all these options that are out there. It's finding the right one for you so you can get off that roller coaster and so you can start living your life with more energy every single day. Okay. I'm going to share, hopefully, that one thing that can work for you. Okay. Um, I threw this slide in here just before I go into exactly what I do. Is there are misconceptions out there that people will get this solution, but they can't break through their mindset. Okay. The mindset that they need sleeping pills. Okay. The fix to that is if you're getting better quality sleep, the quantity doesn't matter as much. So there is a way to get away from those sleeping pills and get better quality sleep. Another misconception is that a relationship can suffer because I've seen it in groups and I've had a few people comment on the fact that if they're not doing some of these things and they're still snoring, then their spouse gets so irritated at them because they're like, well, why aren't you trying to improve this so we can sleep together? The person who snores takes on so much burden in that relationship. And, you know, the answer to that is there's a solution. You have to be willing to try. It takes a little bit of work, but you can show them that you're doing other exercises without having to be strapped to, nose strips or mouth tape or other things. You can prove to them that you're making a change. So your relationship actually doesn't have to suffer. A lot of people are afraid to do some of these, the myofunctional aspects because they feel like they need to have their mouth guard. I'm going to break my teeth if I go a night without it, or they're 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 scared. They're just scared. And if you actually change those little tiny micro arousals that happen as you kind of run out of oxygen, you no longer have the need for your jaw to open up your airway overnight. You can stop that grinding of the teeth and you can actually have better jaw support by changing the way that you're holding your tongue and the way that you're breathing. And your snoring can be resolved without needing to wear these devices. Other people are really just believe that surgery is the only answer because they've tried all the other gadgets. And I want to not question people, but I want to ask you, would you prefer just to cut it out and make that space bigger, or would you like to like exercise and tone that area to make it bigger, right? Keep your anatomy. So that's a mindset thing too, is they just think like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. That's just how it has to be because it's been recommended now. Let's just cut off all that space and make space on its own. But I am trying to help you make that space naturally. And then, of course, the CPAP. Again, I can't take anyone off a CPAP. However, I want to let you know that there's prevention mechanisms to reduce the amount of apneas that you have. And if you can do that, then maybe you don't have to be as dependent on the CPAP machine. Maybe your doctor can see the results and say, hey, this isn't an issue anymore, right? You don't have to wait until you get a diagnosis and have the CPAP and think that's the gold standard when you can prevent it, because medicine is not set up for prevention. Okay. They're set up with here. This is the gold standard once you're diagnosed, once you have a disease, once you have a condition. I'm going to help you prevent that condition, that disease. Okay. And the last one is that, you might get past all those things and think, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. This is the right thing for me. But then you think, I'm not worth it, right? You've already spent money on these things. You don't want to take that away from the family budget. Um, you need to, you're already feeling exhausted. Can you really take more time in order to do these exercises? Well, I want to throw it out there that you have to put your oxygen mask on first. The reason why they say that in an airplane is because if you are not there to make that next step, then who is going to be there to do it? Your kids rely on your mental health, your resilience, your ability to support their needs where they're not capable of doing it at this point in time. So you're absolutely worth it. Okay. You are the most important person in your life. And you are likely the most important person in other people's lives too. So I ask you this, if there was a way to stop snoring, would you want to explore it in order to, save your marriage, to lower your blood pressure, improve your cognition, reduce the risk of heart attack or stroke or Alzheimer's disease, prevent drowsy driving accidents, and really just look and feel better? Because that is what I can share. Okay. The reason you showed up here, I'm assuming, is because you want to stop snoring and wake up rested. Now, Lucia, you have said you want to wake up feeling rested. Um, so I'll share a little bit about my journey. Okay. I took the long way around, like most of us do. Again, trying all the different things. And this was in my journey to help my daughter. And okay, I'll get into my spiel. Um, I was trying to connect the mouth with the body, hence mind, body, mouth. And I was doing that because my clients' oral health was declining despite their hygiene efforts. So this goes back to my hygiene career. And it led me to understand the oral signs of dysfunction because I had connected oral systemic link, but there was more to it. Some of my clients were doing all the right things, brushing, flossing, regular routines, all that kind of stuff, and they just weren't getting better. And so the the dive deeper into the myofunctional therapy side of it when I was trying to help my daughter, mouth breathing, drying out the mouth, the cavities, I started to see that really the mouth was connected to the body way more than we could ever acknowledge. And so once I continued and I learned about the therapy, um, ended up resolving my problems, which I mentioned, I realized that so many people don't get supported because the dental professionals are not looking at airway centered dental health. The ENTs are skipping the tongue. Physical therapists, they kind of stop at the neck when it comes to posture, right? Um, and so by me trying to connect the mouth with the body and then trying to understand my daughter's snoring and then resolving my snoring, all of those pieces of the puzzle led me to the find this proven method. Okay. Um, Proven method that I put into my stop snoring solution. Okay. It's a step-by-step plan that can address the root cause of why you are snoring and can help you focus on the key elements of health that contribute to better sleep. Okay. We know that we need awareness, right? We need to know the root cause. Otherwise, we're going to spend tons of time trying things over and over again. We need a step-by-step plan, right, to teach you how to do it, especially when you're exhausted. You really just don't have the bandwidth to figure it out on your own. You need to have alternative options like special directions into routines and rituals and even relationship support, mindset. You need the accountability, right? It really helps to have a sense of community, other people that are struggling with this and that are making the steps and seeing the changes because it keeps you motivated, right? And then you need to have a professional that can answer your questions as you go along. Why am I feeling this way? What can I do? And how can I get the ongoing support that I need to not just um, keep me motivated, like through the accountability that other people in a group have, but to know that you're being supported, right? And I really find that these aspects were important for me in my other avenues of life. When I went through my own psychological um, needs and support, my own, not weight loss, but health and posture, is that you really need to have all of this in place to really be successful. Okay. I chose this picture because when I first tried to do this plank, I couldn't even lift my legs off the ground. And the point of this is to show that a little bit of practice every single day will eventually help you reach your goals. The accountability of me doing it every day was more important than me going and doing a ton of tricep dips and crunches and a protein-rich diet, build up the muscles, the strength to be able to do this. My approach was way more important and being able to do that exercise. So so I noticed that with most of my clients, they were really advocating for themselves, right? I feel like I kind of jumped all over the place with that, but uh, my point there was that I had a goal for you. It's likely stop snoring. Um, then you end up realizing that I have to do something about this, but the professionals around there kind of gaslight you. They don't really have the solutions, and there's so many of the symptoms of poor sleep that fall into other categories of health and disability or dysfunction, and you never really find the right pathway to success, the right step-by-step plan to reach that goal, which in my case, this one was the plank. And so when I actually found a solution to this, I knew that I had to get this information out there. Like I had tried to talk to the medical professionals, the dental in my community. I tried to get people screening for this and I couldn't do it. And I knew that the people that were finding me were ones that had to advocate for themselves. They had to find the answers. And I I want to be that person to break that barrier for them, to be able to take on so they can take on their own power and they can make the decisions and they can get the results that they're looking for. So I knew all of the tools that were necessary for getting better sleep, and I knew that from my health coaching background. And then the myofunctional therapy let me look at the structural component. And so I was able to, figure out the what leads to better sleep, and then what causes restrictions in airway causing snoring that we can address. And then the breath work, the breathing through our nose. How can we balance our oxygen better so we can wake up rested? And all of these things put together helped me create the solution, the stop snoring solution. So that way I can help people get better sleep by addressing habitual, environmental, anatomical, and a physiological standpoint to why they're snoring. And from that, people, like I mentioned in the very beginning, find different different benefits, right? No more pain, no more issues when they're flying. They might have better digestion, better memory, just better relationships, less pain in their body. And because of that, I knew that I had to make this process available for everybody because, again, my time, I only have so much time in a day, and there's not enough people putting this information out there. There's not enough people supporting people finding a myofunctional therapist. And so I took everything from all of my clients that I had that were coming to see me for other issues, orthodontic issues, TMJ issues, and some sleep issues. And one thing that I found from all of them had better sleep. All of them that were snoring stopped snoring. So I cherry picked all of the exercises that I knew were so important for building up the proper form and function to reach the ability to stop snoring forever. Um, so that way they could have a goal that was actually attainable. Okay, these are some case studies. One here had tried massage and physio and CBD and literally thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours trying to get better sleep. And she decided to work with me, and she's sleeping better. Um, no longer in chronic pain, just feeling a better like vitality for life. Another example is somebody who was snoring and their wife would complain about it all the time. And he was very, very good at trying different things. And she found out about this, connected us. He was super willing to work with me. He had a little bit of challenge in the beginning with mindset. And so I bring in a lot of mindset because I feel like that's really important too, because if you've tried everything, you think there's nothing else that's going to work for you. So part of my program, I incorporated a mindset aspect of it too, because if you don't think something's going to work, it's not going to work, right? You have to be there and ready to be responsible for the outcome. And my other client, these are just stock photos, but my other client was one that I spoke of in the beginning. I really like his story because his whole life changed, not just the snoring. He had to travel a lot for work and he wasn't suffering with the same issues. His pain was resolved. And to me, when you stop being in pain, you open up so many avenues to life and living a better quality of life. And I just feel like with him, I wanted to share his story so much because he actually became a coach and he deals with people with anxiety now. And to me, it's just so rewarding to hear that. So, um, yeah, I help people with snoring, but there's so many side effects that people can end up having that are beneficial side effects, right? Not anything I'm going to claim is going to work. It's not going to be the solution because who knows what the else is going on in your life, but working together and having, coaching time, we can work on a whole holistic approach, you know, in addition to resolving the snoring. So let's just do a quick review. Um, the core concept, the reason why what you're doing is not working. Well, everything was a band-aid solution, right? And they can come with side effects. They can come with discomfort, a loss of efficacy over time. And we realize that there actually is a solution to being able to stop your snoring, right? And that's addressing the root cause. The next part was the roller coaster. You understand that all of your attempts were not necessarily failures. It was just your attempts at not finding the right thing that works for you, right? Um, I like the Thomas Edison example here on how he tried to make a light bulb 1,000 times. However, it was the attempt 1001 that he solved the light bulb or he created the light bulb. And he never looked at those 1,000 attempts as failures. They were successful attempts at not finding the right thing that worked. Those are 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb, right? So that's a mindset shift that I really like to put into my program as well, is knowing that nothing is a failure. Everything takes time. You have to be at the right time, the right place, the right moment, the right everything to be able to make the change. And the fact that, again, you're here, you've done other things, you're still looking for your answers, so important. That is the mindset of the people that I want to work with. Okay. And the last one, the discovery that I made that, changed everything for me. And I walked you through my method. It was finding my dysfunction by trying to help my daughters. The concept is strengthen the airway muscles, tone the airway muscles, breathe properly, have proper tongue form, right? Have the function of the facial structures to contribute to better airway and better sleep. Okay. Um, and that is how you'll be able to stop snoring and wake up rested. So you showed up today because you want to stop snoring. You want to wake up feeling rested. You want to be less irritable. Um, it could look different ways for different people. You might want to have more energy with your kids. You might want to have a better relationship with your partner. You might want to have just maybe more energy to work out or complete tasks efficiently, or start a new business, or know that you're going to be going on vacation and you really want to be able to hike that summit. Whatever it looks like for you, you're looking for a simple way to improve. And of course, you never in the process want to waste money and definitely not waste time. Time is the most limited resources that you can never get back. So to spend it on buying new products, on spending more time Google searching, on going and looking up reviews on all these products over and over and over again. It's so time consuming. Instead, you want to find a proven system that will create results that last. And at the beginning of the training, I had made you a promise that I can show you how to stop relying on all of those appliances and all of those Google searches to help you stop snoring and wake up feeling rested. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I want you to remember that everything I shared with you today, it's not a random theory or some idea that I think might work for you. Everything I walked you through today, it works. It's worked with me, it's worked with clients, it's worked with thousands of people, with all of the myofunctional therapists that I know and that are working with people. I'm not special. My clients aren't special. We have busy lives. We have a ton of obligations. We have family. But with that said, I take those things into consideration when I support my clients. And so I'm confident that that you will find the results just like they did, just like I did, and that you can wake up with your dream of no longer snoring and waking up feeling rested. Okay. You just need to have the right system in place. So my question is, do you want me to help you? That's not the big question. That's the big question for me. But in general, it really comes down to, do you want to make a change? And are you going to do the work? Because you have a choice. You can continue to do exactly what you're doing, waking up feeling discouraged or anxious or embarrassed or irritated, just knowing that, not going to have it, or that feeling anxious that you're going to have another bad night's sleep, and maybe hoping eventually that you'll just kind of work through it and it'll go away. Or you can choose a simpler path, which is to try the Stop Snoring Solution program, which has a proven system and the accountability that you can reach your goals. So the choice is yours. So if the decision is you would like to learn whether or not this is the right program for you, I do have a snoring assessment call. So you can chat with me and we can go over your goals. We can go over what you've tried. We can go over what hasn't worked, really dive deeper. And I actually have many programs available because some people don't need a whole stop snoring solution program, right? There are different levels of support that people need. And I talk with you about that to determine exactly what it is that you need. Or maybe it's just a quick little audit. Who knows? This is where a call can help me guide you to the right approach for you. Okay. So you can just hop online. I have links for like booking online. It's a stop snoring assessment call where we can just chat. This is what it looks like when you go onto your devices. And I'm going to, before I go here, um, go back here. I lost track again because I'm not following my actual script. Oh, it's all the details on how to make the call that I'm skipping over right here. Okay, so the main thing is that this call, it is free. It's a chance for me to go and actually chat with you about the obstacles, which I already had mentioned there. So that's how you go about it. I can put the link in the chat here if you would like it, but it is on all of my socials. And because there's not a lot of people in here and everyone's going to get the recording, might as well just put it in with the recording. But before you even decide whether or not you want to book the call with me, I want to know that who the call's not for. Okay. If it's someone who just doesn't want to take responsibility for their success, or you don't value your health and your well-being, or you're not open-minded to new ways of doing things, and you're not ready to prioritize your time, okay, then, I'm not saying this to be rude, but I want my clients to reach the success that they're hoping for. And so I need people to be accountable for their work. So the call is not for you if you're really not ready to start. Okay. Now, the call is for you um, if you are committed to doing the work. If you are, I have on this page, if you're coachable, if you're ready to work with someone to give you ideas on things to change in life, and you want to hear those things, you want to be open to them, you want to give them a try. Because let's face it, as I mentioned before, not everything is going to work for everybody. But the fact that you're willing to try, because we don't know until we try. And so I really want to work with people that, well, that are excited for this new life that's available for them, right? And that maybe that are tired of trying things that don't work for them, right? I want you to be accountable for your work, and I want you to really be motivated to do it, to be able to really work towards your goal. Okay. So if you have tried all those things and you really want to take the next step, then going and booking a call is important. Now, I'm the one answering all these phone calls. I don't have a big team that I'm working with. Okay. I've opened up time on my schedule to chat with people, but I do really want to make sure it's people that are motivated, that really want this um, to find the answer. So if you want, to take that holistic approach and you really want to utilize modern day science with medical, naturopathic, and Eastern philosophies and have that all incorporated into a step-by-step plan, then, working with me is a way to incorporate all of that. Like my background, my values, my experience, it's all put into this program to make it so unique to help people on all aspects of their health and healing journey. So, questions. This is if there is anything, there's nothing in the chat. Questions about anything I've shared today. Um, I do have some questions that people have asked me in the past that I like to cover because then it can save you time on if it was something that you wanted to reach out for, you'll at least have the answer. So I'll wait and see if you have any other questions. And while you are, I'm going to cover a couple questions, as I mentioned. I've already spent so much money trying to solve my snoring. Well, should I still book a call? And the answer is yes, because it's free. Then you can decide if my methodology is an investment that's valuable to you. Okay. The way I look at it, everything costs money, and there's a cost to do treatment, and there's the cost of what happens when you don't do treatment, right? So is the cost of sleepless nights is it causing you pain? Is it causing you marital problems? What feels more important and more expensive right now? A done for you program, which is an investment of your health, or nothing changing at all, except maybe the quality of your life that continues to decline, which hopefully that's not in your case. Um, Question two, I'll just see if there's questions. No. What if I need to discuss with my spouse first? Should I still book a call? Well, I encourage you to bring your spouse on the call, right? They're witnessing you with all these struggles and the challenges that you have, and I'm assuming that they love you and they want you to find a solution, right? They can learn more about what you're dealing with, which is great for the relationship. And I can then know that they're going to be a supportive part to your journey. And not to mention, if you stop snoring, then think about how much better they're going to feel. Okay, any other questions? I'm really busy. It's a lot of work. Or is it a lot of work? And it's a tough question to answer because it all comes down to your priorities. I can't really decide if it's a lot of work for you or it's not because, you know, we have different obligations. So if you're too busy to make a call, then I'm going to think that your symptoms are not bothering you enough to make you change your behavior. So I would say don't book the call. But if you are busy and you want to function more efficiently and free up more time, so um, so you're more efficient with everything, and you know that improving your sleep is going to do that. So I would say book the call because we will find ways to make it fit into your schedule. So that way you can not be as busy as you think. You can still get this done. Another question is, I'm scared because nothing else has worked. Well, that's fear and it's a real thing. And that's the mindset part that's so important, right? Is we have to break through that mindset because if we're afraid something's not going to work for us, we're going to unintentionally, unknowingly self-sabotage. Okay. So it doesn't matter what hasn't worked for you in the past. If you want to make a change in the future, book a call. I'll support you. And this question I get a lot, and I love it. Why has no one told me about this before? Well, in my health practice prior to this, we had to take continuing education courses. And with that, you get to choose what you get to learn. So if you have practitioners that don't have sleep issues, that are not personally dealing with this, they might not take these type of courses to learn about them because it's not an interest to them. Secondly, doctors, they get less than 5 hours of training on sleep. Like we spend a third of our life sleeping, and yet doctors have less than 5 hours in their entire 4+ years of education on sleep. Nutrition as well. Nutrition is super important, right? But those are the main two reasons. It's interest for continuing education, and we don't learn about it in the first place in school because everything that we're learning is we're learning how to treat issues. We're not learning how to prevent them. So those are the main questions that I get. And I hope I covered any questions that you might have. There's nothing else in here. So I want to thank you. Thank you for your time. Oh my gosh, getting started. And I was just, everything just unorganized. Not great. I did get my hair done and everything. Um, but yes, you're still here, and I want to thank you. And I am going to send, I don't even think I'm going to send this replay out. I am going to record and send out all of this so that way it's really to the point because time is so important. And I hope that we can touch base. I hope that you can find a solution for your 4-year-olds. And I'm happy to hop on a call with you and find out what's going on in their life and see if I can help you in any way. And honestly, whatever you do with me, doing with them, there's going to be no harm, which is the most important part of this is nothing I can do or give you will have negative side effects, like maybe like mouth tapes and other things that are out there. So, um, so yeah, I'm glad you like the information, and I look forward to touching base. If you're not already in my Facebook group, I think you are in my Facebook group though. You are. Um, I'm I'm sure of it, or I just saw your name on the list for this. I'm not sure, but go out and find me and let me support you and have a lovely, lovely day.